Welcome to the Renaissance Achiever with Sarah Fui. And today we have special guest Celia Moleni. And Celia is so special on my heart. It's so crazy how we connected. It was just through Instagram over a year ago. I was scrolling on Instagram and I came upon your business page before your personal page. So Manaaki Mental Health. And I saw
Mhm.
this girl, she's an LCSW, mental health, doing therapy, and then also life coaching. And I was like, that's me. And then I saw you on a podcast interview and I just saw you shining, going out there and achieving and shining. And I love connecting with other ambitious women. And at the time, I was going to visit Utah and I was hosting this random networking evening to bring different high vibe women together. And everyone I invited, I had some connection to, but I just randomly found you on Instagram. I was like, hey, girl, you're cool. Do you want to come to my event? And I know you weren't able to make it then, but we just kind of stayed in touch on Instagram. And every time I messaged you, you were just so gracious and open and aloha. And I was like, okay, she's good vibes. And then we didn't really meet in person for, I don't know, maybe 6 months later. You invited me
Yeah.
to an event at your house on the very last minute when I happened to be flying in to Utah that day. And we got to connect. And then we started going to lunch when I visited in Utah. And I just want to say, from the first time we connected on a one on one conversation, I felt like I could be completely open and vulnerable and honest. And you just saw me. And I'm not that way with everybody where I'm pouring everything out. You're probably like, who's this girl just telling me all kinds of stuff? But I just felt this like magnetic energy that we just saw each other and we
Ah,
could just be real. Our interactions in person have been so minimal for how I feel like, oh, yes, that's my girl. You said just before we started
absolutely.
recording, we're going to be connected for life. And I feel that even though it's just we've had these small interactions, that energy, that spiritual connection is there. So thank you for being here. I'm
Uh,
excited
Thank
for
you.
I'm excited for the conversation that's going to unfold. And
I just want to tell you, like, that I feel the same about you, and it's been minimal, but super in depth. And I think
yeah,
that's what life is all about. It doesn't matter how long, it's the quality. And so I just feel the same about you, and it's an honor to be here with you and to sit with a sister, to talk about our purpose, really
yeah.
what we're doing here.
And I love that it's the in-depth and authentic conversations that really matter. We have so many
Yes.
surface connections, and when someone's willing to just be vulnerable and real, that creates that deep connection. I'm just gonna abbreviate your bio. Celia is a licensed clinical social worker. She is the owner of a group therapy practice, Manaaki Mental Health in Salt Lake City, Utah. And she also has a life coaching business. She is a keynote speaker, often presenting at different events. She also is a bodybuilder, right? You've won some
I
bodybuilding
was, yeah.
competitions. That's incredible. And a
My
mother
past
of
life is good.
four on top of all of that, an amazing um, spiritual woman who is really passionate about connecting to your Indigenous roots. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your life because I knew you grew up in New Zealand and then moved to the States. And
Mhm.
I want to hear a little bit of your history there.
Awesome. So, just a short little snippet of my upbringing. I was born in Tonga in the Viola Hospital in, yeah, Tonga Tapu. And then at 2 years old, we moved to New Zealand, and that's 2 to 12. And then we moved to America, Utah specifically, and we've been here ever since. And so I actually have a beautiful, rich childhood that I can remember that comes from Temple View, Hamilton, New Zealand, where I was able to attend Kohangareo with my auntie Celia, and then went to a dual immersion school called Rotongahere, where I was able to learn Maori and sing my culture, practice my culture, and then we came to Utah, which was a pretty heavy shift for our family, but was very necessary for us to really grow into our certain individual spheres as a family. But my parents were very intentional about where they were going to raise us and how they were going to raise us. And so they could see that there was opportunity here in America, which is why you can't hear my New Zealand accent. But moving here was pretty, it was a culture shock. And as a mental health clinician, I'm pretty sure I had depression for the first couple years being here because I share the story a lot, but I dropped out of 6th grade. I dropped out of elementary because I didn't want to go to school for a long time. And so, but once I got into junior high, I found my people who are still my best friends today, who offered and showed me so much grace in who I was. And it's been the same ever since. And I've been so blessed to have them since moving here to hold me in that gracious space. I'm still here in Utah.
And how do you think having that background of growing up so heavy in the culture shaped who you are today?
I think back to some of my most toughest moments of my life, and it was those teachings that I learned in my upbringing in Aotearoa where I had to lean heavy on. And I don't think you really understand to the extent of feeling like you have to be uprooted, and almost like your roots are cut off from beneath you and reroot somewhere. And Utah is pretty, it's a desert. Metaphorically speaking, it was pretty dry here for myself. And so having that experience has really helped me to always draw back to my ancestry line and who I am to find strength. And so I know that moving forward, being able to help other people draw strength from their ancestry and carrying on that mantle moving forward is something very, very important, especially for us Pacific Islander people.
Yeah. I know that you weave that into the mental health work that you do, which is very rare. First of all, just having a Polynesian in the mental health field, there's so much stigma around mental health in the
Yeah.
Polynesian community. We don't talk about it. We act like it's not there because then you're weak, right? And you also don't share your personal family secrets because we don't want to put shame on the family name. And so, how did you get into this field being a Polynesian woman?
Well, there was a time in my life where I needed therapy myself, and I remember, it was early on when I was married, we were going through some things, and my older brother, who was a therapist at the time, he said, "Maybe you should think about going to therapy with your husband," and we're like, "Okay, cool." And so we went, and we were placed with a man of color, and he was awesome. However, he had to leave, and so we were transferred over to another clinician. And she wasn't a person of color, and so her first interview with us was pretty surface. And one of the things that stood out to me was asked us, "What's your favorite cereal?" And then after that, she proceeded to talk about how good she was as a therapist, and I was just turned off. And I remember thinking, if we as Pacific Islanders are in this office with people that don't understand us, then that gap is going to remain as far as mental illness and our people. And it's going to
Yeah.
further that gap. And so I remember because I had only graduated with my bachelor's at the time. And so I remember thinking, okay, one, I have to go back to school and get my master's degree. Two, I have to represent my people in this space. And three, be the bridge, be one of the bridges, because I know there's many of us out here be helpful in bridging that gap, for our people. And so, because I was like, if I'm
Yes.
feeling this way, then I'm pretty sure
Everyone
like a
else
lot
is
of
feeling this
us are
way.
feeling this way.
And can we talk
Yeah.
about that for a minute? Because not even just within cultures, but every single person who has sought out mental health help or a therapist has had some kind of negative experience because it's
Yeah.
very rare that you're going to find the right therapist for you the first try. So a lot of people
Right.
have this attitude like therapy doesn't work, it's not for me, it's a waste of time because they tried it and it wasn't for them. But it's really like dating, and if it's not working for you, it means you need a different therapist. It doesn't mean that
Right.
it's not gonna work for you at all, right? And so if
Right.
within the first or second session you're feeling like, "I don't feel I really vibe with this person, or I don't feel safe or comfortable with them," you can't force it, it's not gonna be effective. Like, that's the number one
Right.
thing is having that relationship. So anyone who has tried it and it hasn't worked, or you feel like you don't really feel seen or you don't really like your therapist, go find someone else. You can go start again somewhere else and there will be someone for you. It just takes some shopping around.
Yes,
But coming
absolutely.
yeah. So coming back
Yeah.
to your journey in mental health, you talked about helping others connect with their ancestors because that's very important to you and your own healing journey. So what does that look like in the work that you do now?
And so going back to like the first sessions, even with my clients, Manaki Mental Health is geared towards women in mental health and specifically women of color. And Manaki is really the essence of our culture, how we take off our shoes when we enter a house, how we offer food as a sign of love to our guests, how we show aroha love just so naturally. And I think being able to just implement that umbrella term in my practice and also training my clinicians who come through Manaki Mental Health to offer the same and to be cognizant that this is actually more than just a surface meeting and diagnosing and treating the illness. This is a lot more, and there's more going on that we can just see. And
Right.
so I know that when I have a client, they come, goes back to Maya Angelou's quote that I think I have on my Facebook. I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. And
Mm,
so we don't treat the individual just as the individual. There's certain other layers that even contribute to them coming into the office. And so being very aware and sensitive as to it's really hard for them to come in the first place. It's, so to speak, against our culture to address mental illness. There's a lot of resistance there. And so we really just try to honor our clients and then tap into their tapestry. And what is their
mhm.
tapestry? Their ancestors. And where do we start? Their upbringing. How were you raised? What were the pros and cons of being raised in a cultural home? And a lot of times there's the negative and there's the positive. And so
And it
um,
sometimes it's so hard for people to talk about the negative of their upbringing because they love and honor their parents so much, which is so huge,
every single time.
right? In
Yes.
indigenous cultures, there's always a disclaimer like, "Oh, this happened, but
Oh,
my
but I
parents are
love
so
them.
amazing." Yeah, they don't wanna say anything
Yes.
bad, and it's not about complaining or putting down your family, it's just about honoring your individual experience that this hurt me, and I can hold the truth that my parents did the best, and they love me, and we have a great
Absolutely.
relationship, and this is still hurting me in some way, right? And I love
Yeah.
that you use the word tapestry because the problem and for those who cannot see the video, you use the quotations for mental illness because we don't believe someone's really ill when they're struggling. They're not a single thread, they're a tapestry, and they are not the problem.
Absolutely.
Their environment, their family, their relationships, their upbringing, culture, like society, all of that is woven into affecting the experience of mental health that they're having. I'm sorry,
Yes,
continue.
absolutely. No, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
exactly it, and I love that you highlighted those things because, like I said, there's more layers to a person than what we see with our eyes. And so being able to connect to ancestors and also accepting the the trauma maybe that your ancestors have gone through
yeah.
and noticing that your journey here is so sacred. They say that when you heal self, when you go on that healing journey, you're healing 7 generations before you and 7 generations ahead of you. And so I
Wow.
don't take this work lightly at all. So when I'm in front of a client, it's actually there's no coincidence because I have grown up being cognizant of ancestry, spirituality. I know that I'm not just sitting with them.
Mhm.
And I know that's from a spiritual perspective and a cultural lens is that they come and we come deep. We roll deep with our families. And so they represent who they come from, they represent their ancestors, their parents. And like you said, talking about the negative, um, is really hard. So, and like exactly what you said, a lot of times when they're talking about the reality or the hardships of their family, they always say it with, but I love my dad.
Mhm.
But I love my mom so much. And that
Yeah.
is so beautiful. And I think that in of itself is the most beautiful part of our culture is that we love so deep and so good.
Yeah.
And so we use that a lot in our therapy sessions is the love that you have but also how do we accept, really be true with ourselves with how much maybe the upbringing did hurt us or hurt our inner child. And so, yeah, we kind of
Yeah.
go through that perspective.
It's that big difference between the Western culture and way of thinking is so individualistic, whereas indigenous is so comprehensive and community and family and interconnected. And so it's really hard to just acknowledge and I guess validate your own feelings and experiences because you're seeing it from this big connected lens. And I think that's part of the work is just helping them to separate a little to understand themselves so that they can come
Mhm.
back into the tapestry, but from a grounded and healthy and whole place instead of my
Absolutely.
threads are ripping apart and I'm trying to hold together this tapestry.
It's finding that beautiful balance. Like, there's a lot of community cognizant awareness in Pacific Islander communities. But there's also a lack of individual awareness. And so I get a lot of clients who can't identify their thoughts or sensations in their body that are separate from their families. thoughts and feelings of what they're doing in their life. And so, yeah,
And
I'm
even
seeing a lot of
the choices you make are so based
Mhm.
on what is my family gonna think and
Yes, absolutely. That's a big one. Yep. Which is there's value, right? There's value. There's this
yeah,
beautiful balance. Okay, where do I find this balance in my life that's going to work for me and my community?
and while still honoring my community. I love that. And
For sure.
recently, you have been feeling a call to return to your roots. Do you wanna talk a little bit about that and what's upcoming for you?
Yeah. So, we've talked about this a little bit, but I haven't really told anybody except for those that are very close to me that I do feel called to go back to the motherland, Aotearoa, which is one of my motherlands, and Tonga is the other one. My mom comes from Aotearoa, my dad comes from Tonga. And going back to my roots, like I said, I grew up in New Zealand as a kid. And in school, we learned about our history. We learned about where our ancestors come from. We learned about the different gods, God of the wind, Papatuanuku, who is Mother Earth, and Rangi Nui, who is the sky, and their beautiful love story. Those are the things we learned in school. And so I do feel a calling to go back and immerse myself in the language and to become fully immersed in the Maori tongue. And the reason being is because I feel like there's such a different lens. They call it Te Ao Māori. There's a different lens when you can speak the language fluently. As far as it's so beautiful. I can't even
Yeah,
explain it. And I only know this much, right? Because
right.
of my upbringing and going to that dual immersion school. But I only learn this much. I want to open it and broaden that perspective in
Yeah,
Te Ao Māori and connect and reroute. At this time, I'm 40, but I feel like moving forward, there's something that I need to do that is in connection to that. Yeah, I don't
yeah.
can't really see too much, but all I can see is that I need to go home and I need to immerse myself in Maori and become fluent in my tongue.
Yes, a girl after my own heart. I'm always about you don't have to know the whole plan or picture yet. You just have to know the next step. And you know, the next step is I need to return to my roots and I need
Yeah.
to be fluent in my language. And there is so much power in learning another language in the way it shapes your thoughts because language is just a way for us to express our thoughts. And when our language is limited, just to English Western thinking, it's so hard to put into words the concepts and the beliefs and the feelings that we have. Whereas when you learn another language, it actually helps you to think in that way. And I don't know much about Maori, but I know in the Hawaiian language, they have what is called kauna, and it's double meanings. So a lot of words have double meanings, and it's so poetic, but it's like you see something this way, but you see it multiple ways, and it just opens your mind and
Absolutely.
your lens to seeing all of the different analogies in this one word, and it's so beautiful and expansive, and there's no way to do that in the English language, or there's terms for words that doesn't even exist in English because of this thought or belief system. It's so important that when you go back and you learn that language, it is gonna change the way you view the world and the way you operate in it and your daily thoughts. So that's so beautiful. And I love that it's just gonna expand the work that you're already doing, which is healing in the Pacific community. What is the specific program that you are looking at? And can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so this is the Maori immersion program at University of Waikato University, and that's in my hometown in Hamilton, and it's called Te Tohu Paitahi. And it's a daily program, Monday through Friday, and it's from March until October. And so my friends from New Zealand were talking to me about it, and they're like, "You should do it." I'm like, "Yeah, cool. Yeah, I should do it." But then I was sitting there, and actually, though, I don't see myself really growing the way I need to, or that is aligned with my purpose if I stay here in Utah for the rest of my life. I
Mm,
just don't see that for me. And because it aligns with my purpose and who I am, like you said, a whole different realm is waiting for me to enter by going back and learning my native tongue. And after that, I do want to become fluent in Tongan as well, so that
yes,
I can be able to speak both languages and see in the lens of my people. If I can't see the lens of my people through communication and through that realm, then how am I going to be able to really serve them?
yes. I love
And
that.
so, And also there's another component to it is there's parts of me that need healing as well. And
Mhm.
so filling my cup and rerouting, I felt like my roots, they were cut off from beneath me. And there's certain parts that have never been reconnected. And so going back, I'm also just connecting to my ancestors and their place of origin. And I feel my grandmother Wetakia and my ancestors waiting there for me with open arms. Like I know
Mhm.
that they're here for me, but I know that there's things that they want me to learn back home.
Yeah. There is something powerful about being in the land of your ancestors and connecting to if they had a program like that in Utah, you could learn all the things, the language, the culture,
Mhm,
whatever,
mhm.
but it's not the same as being in the land. There's something so powerful
Absolutely.
about that and connecting to those roots, and so I'm excited for
Absolutely.
you, but that's also a
Thank
really big and scary decision to make with 4 kids.
so
So,
it's a lot.
how are you navigating that transition and all of the fears and resistance that comes along with making such a big move like that?
It's really big. So navigating that move that's about to happen because I did get accepted to the program that starts in March. There's been so much resistance coming forward. And I know that I need to push through because there's this purpose that's bigger than myself that I know that I need to go. And trust me, my family's like, really? Do you really need to go? Like, what? And I'm like,
Nobody understands, yeah.
yeah, nobody understands, and I feel like in ways, God is opening up the path, and then in also other ways, there's so much resistance that I have to jump over because packing up my kids and myself and figuring things out is there's so many different details to it that is pretty tough, and so I know that I need to go. There's been some roadblocks that have come up recently, but I just have faith that it can work.
Yeah,
And so I haven't announced this to anybody, but yeah, I'm going in November to scope things out and to talk to my friends and family, to also start preparing for that move in February, March with my family. Yeah, it's a
and I
lot.
have no doubt that in your November trip, things are just going to start falling into place, and sometimes what we
Mhm.
think are roadblocks are actually God opening the path in the way that it's supposed to be, and just trusting that you
Absolutely.
already received this call, you know with your whole heart and soul, "I'm supposed to go to this program," and so just trusting that when that what you thought it was gonna look like isn't working out, it's actually gonna work out better, I just don't know how yet. And I
Yes.
100% believe that, but it's so hard when you're in the thick of it and not everyone can see your vision and they're just like, "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" And that's just how I live my life. So,
I know.
I love
That's
seeing
me.
yes,
I'm the
I
crazy
love it.
one.
I love seeing people just trusting their intuition and trusting the call and having the courage to answer it. That is huge. Has
Yeah.
there been, this is kind of shifting gears, I feel like there's this high value in the
Uh-huh.
Pacific culture on humility, right? Humility and always putting ourselves lower, putting ourselves down, always serving others. And when you are an ambitious person and when you have big dreams that you know come from God and that you really do it from a place of want to serve, I want to give back. I feel the call to do these things and you're putting yourself out there and you're doing things, you're creating businesses, you're showing up on social media, you're speaking at events. There can sometimes be this pushback or judgment from others of who does she think she is? And I'm wondering, have you ever experienced any of that, or how have you navigated some of that, either internal or external conflict that you might have come across?
Yeah, that's a really good, question, and I think humility is really a strength of our people. I've been studying a lot about ego and how that presents, and ego can present in a form of higher than, and ego can also present in a form of lower than. And
Yes.
so what goes up must come down, and so really trying to be cognizant of how do I remain like, how do I remain real, but also aligned? And I think that's where I have to check myself many times is, when I get scared or when I get even when I go into these speaking arrangements, I used to like tremble before speaking arrangements. It really was when I noticed that this calling is actually bigger than myself. It had something to do with me.
Yeah.
Essentially, I'm just a vessel to what God wants me to do here while I'm here. And so if I take out the less than, and the
Mhm.
higher than aspect, and really come ground myself to alignment, like
Yep.
rooted and also aligned with my purpose and what God has for me and connected to Him, then that gets rid of, well, they might be talking about me and that's okay.
It doesn't matter because I'm doing what God wants me to do, right?
Yeah, and I
Being
know my
rooted in that.
truth too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, we do have a community where we like to talk about people because, again, we're so community oriented and
yeah,
we talk about each other, and then that's good, but there's also the dark side of it where we can really bring things down. I mean,
right.
I was looking at an influencer the other day and she was crying online and she's like, "People are harsh out there."
Yeah.
But it really isn't about us, and this woman whose Pacific Islander, she has millions of followers, and she was just like, "It hurts, right?"
Mhm.
But I don't have a million followers, and I don't think I've been hurt that much, but but I have to just listen upwards, listen here, and listen to my roots, who are
Yeah,
my ancestors,
staying
and
grounded.
everything else around me is really a reflection of them, and reminding myself people are going to be nasty and talk behind my back, then that's okay. It really is a reflection of where they're coming from. I
Yep.
mean, you'll notice sometimes they just don't know who I am. I've never had conversations with them. That's usually the people. But I don't, I don't hear it a lot because I'm not
Yeah.
around many people. I'm just kind of like honed in on my
Yeah,
kids.
you're honed in on what you need
I
to
hear
do.
what they say.
Yeah.
They talk a lot of crap about
There
me in
is
front of
a
my
fear
face.
in, like, putting there's a fear, though, in putting yourself out there, right?
Oh
There is
yeah.
always that showing up and being like, "What will people think of me?" And having to break through that because it's not even about us. I love what you
Yeah.
said. Pride is putting yourself above others and putting yourself lower than others because it's focused in comparison and it's focused on self, and it's not about
It's yeah,
ourselves.
it's
Humility
focused
is
on
like
you.
yeah, humility is complete surrender to what is God or spirit or universe telling me to do, and
Mhm.
even if that scares the crap out of me or I am afraid of what people are gonna think, I'm gonna do it anyways because that's what is being asked of me, and that is humility, right? It's not about hiding in a hole
Yeah.
and hiding your talents and not shining your light. It's about showing up in the way God wants you to, so I love that perspective. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Something that I like to ask people at the end of my episodes is what is a dream that you have, maybe an unfulfilled dream that you have that maybe not a lot of people know about? And it can be anything big or small, fun, silly, deep, whatever.
One of the unfulfilled dreams that I have kind of goes along with what we've been talking about. I wanna be able to, and I've always had this vision in my mind of being able to reach out to those that are suffering in silence, especially for my people who in the islands are suffering in silence, behind closed doors, are suffering in the darkness by themselves, or they feel alone. And to be able to bring light to them that is from God and really that resonates with who they are and where they come from. Really bringing the light. So that's really one of my biggest dreams. And I see the vision that I see is really just helping the South Pacific somehow, some way. I don't know, girl.
Yeah,
I just don't know how, but we're not supposed to maybe know how. We're just
yeah.
supposed to go one step at a time. So that's my biggest dream is to be able to bring light to those that are suffering in silence and in the dark in the South Pacific.
I love it.
Big dream.
Big
I said
dreams.
it, I said
Not
it.
just the one
Oh, I
demographic,
said
it's like
it.
the entire South Pacific, right?
I said it.
Let's go. I love it, and you're following that dream by taking this first step to connect to your own roots so that you can help others to do the same. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for being the light that you are and the friend that you
Thank
are,
you.
and thank you for being here today.